There's your folk music, straight from Wisconsin. Nothing inserted needed here because you got me live and ready. Hope you're watching on YouTube. Welcome back to the Always Bayern Chelsea channel. As I said, please go to YouTube, watch this video. It's me, Jim, live and in person on video. Subscribe to YouTube, like our videos, subscribe to TikTok, follow us on Twitter, the whole 9 yards. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, wherever, Google, I love you. I appreciate you listening, and I hope you had an amazing weekend. It's Sunday night at this point. I just got back from up north. I'm sure Danny mentioned it in his video where he talked about Bayern. Maybe he threw in some comments about Chelsea, but I'm finally sitting down reacting to the Chelsea match against West Ham, a London derby. And boy, oh boy, was it a hell of a match. Hell of a match. Before I get into that, real quick, just want to say thank you again if you're watching on YouTube. Shout out to Danny for posting his Bayern reaction. He's had an incredibly busy weekend. Again, shout out to him for that, for staying in the loop with all things Bayern, and also for his derby car team doing so well with direct supply and at the Milwaukee Mile. Just absolutely special. So shout out to Danny for that. Shout out to Bayern Munich for a massive, massive win against RB Leipzig. I mean, we're talking about just an insane win for Bayern Munich over RB Leipzig. So shout out to them. I'll actually react a little bit to that as well. I just watched the highlights. Might watch the full match as well at some point for Bayern Munich. But on to Chelsea Football Club. They were playing West Ham in a London derby at the London Stadium on Friday, 2 p.m. Central Time over here in the United States, 8 p.m. Friday Night Football kickoff in the EPL, the first match of the Matchday 2 week in the English Premier League. What a match. Chelsea end up winning 5-1. And that first 30 minutes, boy oh boy, was it a roller coaster for me. So I'm up north, staying in Hazelhurst, Wisconsin. Shout out to my family, the Kempinger family. My great aunt, shout out to her for letting us stay in her cabin. I was kind of debating, do I go to a Starbucks, watch on my laptop or my phone? Do I try to find a bar? You know, it's a Friday afternoon in Wisconsin. I figured there wasn't going to be a lot of bars that had stuff on TV. So I find myself tooling around Minocqua, tooling around the shops, and it's an absolutely great time. End up going to Murtaugh's Pub and Tavern, little Irish pub, downtown Minocqua. And I'm kind of sitting there for about an hour and a half, having a couple old fashions. Brandy Sweet is my old fashioned of choice. The classic, if you're a Wisconsinite. End up having some mac and cheese bites. Maybe chewing on a little bit of popcorn at the pub. 2 o'clock rolls around. I say to my girl, the bartender working, hey, you mind turning on USA Network? There's a soccer match on. And, of course, she ends up turning it on. Golf was over for the day. And so I get to watch in the pub. There's people coming and going, but I'm staying there. I ended up being there for probably 4 hours at that point. And it was awesome because Chelsea was on the big screen, and I couldn't have been happier. So let's get into this match because it was interesting. Cole Palmer goes out after warm-ups. Apparently has a groin injury. We still don't know how serious it's going to be. Sounds like he may be out until after the international break, which is fine by me. Don't risk anything. You might as well rest until then. But that was really worrisome, when the match is just starting and we're learning of this news. So shout out to the Chelsea boys for really staying strong and doing the thing after that news. The lineup was then as follows, with Liam Delap at the top, Pedro as the 10 second striker behind him, Neto on the left, Esteval coming in on the right wing, replacing Cole Palmer. So that was the guy who came in for Palmer when he was a late scratch, was Esteval. Enzo and Caicedo in the midfield, and then he had Cucurella, Tosin, Adara Bioyo, Trevoh Chalobah, Melo Gusto, and Robert Sanchez playing goalie on the day. Seemingly, Enzo Maresca likes to rest Reece James at time, really keep his body in order. And I think he likes the differing styles that Melo Gusto and Reece James both have. we were going to see more bombing up and down from Gusto in this match for whatever reason. I think Maresca saw something in the matchup against West Ham that was going to be the move. And I mentioned this with Danny in our preview that Gusto is a good replacement to have for James for that very reason, especially when I was expecting a more open match. So that was interesting to me. The other move was bringing Tosin back into the squad. I think it was always going to make sense. He comes in for Achimpong. Chalobah once again starts as a center back. And then you had the change in the attack. That first match against Crystal Palace, it was Neto, Palmer, Gittins, and Pedro. Now we bring in Liam Delap, but Pedro stays in as a second striker. And boy, oh boy, did he have success in that role, which I'll get to. But let's also realize how good of a match Liam Delap had up top. Did he get an assist or a goal? No, but his hold-up play, his IQ making runs, the way he takes center backs out of the equation to open up space for his teammates, I think is hugely important, and we're going to see that going forward. He just offers something different that João Pedro wouldn't be able to up top as a striker, and the fact that they can play together then, even you could bring in Palmer in this, and Pedro would do so well in that middle, even throw him out on the left, whatever the case may be. Just excited that Delap was able to come in and play so well with Pedro in the lineup. So, this match started off kind of interesting. Chelsea slowly controlling, but not doing a ton necessarily. And then all of a sudden we see Esteval get a little too fancy, try a back heel. Paqueta steals it, waltzes into the Chelsea defense. I mean, completely waltzed into the defense. Nobody stepped up to get him after the Esteval turnover. Beautiful strike by him to go up 1-0. I mean, an absolutely unreal strike. I really couldn't even be mad at it because of how special it was. So yeah, it's just it was quite unreal. Robert Sanchez, could he have done better potentially? But really, it's on the center backs, maybe Caicedo, to step up and do better against him in that case. So you go down 1-0. I'm thinking, oh shit, here we go again. I don't know. It's just one of those where you're just feeling dicey and not loving the way things were starting, especially coming off a draw when we would have loved to have a win and 3 points that first week against Palace. But Chelsea are able to come right back. And I think the important thing about Chelsea that we've seen over the last year and a half, under Maresca specifically, and even under Poch a little bit toward the end, is that they're able to bounce back so quickly. And that's so huge to me, because if you go down early, you need to be able to show. We saw this against Real Betis. We've seen it a lot against teams. Chelsea can bounce back. That's huge as a young team. And bounce back they did. Again, working the ball around, getting a ton of corners, getting chances, and the ball will find the net. Whether this is Bernardo Cueva, the set-piece coach, or it's just Chelsea being great, they zing in a great corner, Pedro Neto, Cucurella flips it on, and João Pedro is right there. Another goal for João Pedro. How good has this guy been? I mean, the Brighton fans, I think, all thought that he was just this penalty merchant. Wasn't scoring a lot in open play, but we've seen at Chelsea, he can score in so many different ways, a variety of ways, and that is so awesome to see. And not only that, but Chelsea battle and get a second right away. Do we want to talk about the West Ham second goal? Maybe. They technically scored a goal. Fulkrug was ruled offside. I forget who was actually offside for West Ham, but the important thing is that didn't count, but the next one did, and that was from Pedro Neto. João Pedro finds the ball kind of in the right side near the edge of the kind of penalty area, crosses one over. Neto races past Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who really allowed the first 3 goals with some poor defending. And Neto fires it in the 23rd minute. And Chelsea are off running. Again, they get the first to tie it up. Don't get complacent. Come right back and get a second. And the boys were playing well at this point. I thought Esteva was firing on all cylinders, showing that he could be a threat. Delap up top, occupying space. João Pedro in that center, on the left, even on the right at times, was fantastic. Neto is so threatening every time he's out there with his speed, what he can provide, and then the defenders were locking it down. Caicedo, Enzo, solid in the midfield. But Chelsea weren't done in the first half. 34th minute, what a little play here between Esteval, Neto, Delap, and ultimately Enzo Fernandez, who gets the goal. I believe it was Neto who kind of loops one into Delap, holds up the play so well, links it up. Esteval runs in, gets it, and then he just races past the defender, crosses it to a wide open Enzo Fernandez, who again passes Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who did not have a great day for West Ham, and Enzo finds it back to the net. Huge. You have a box-crashing midfielder that's already showing connections with these attackers up top. He's going to get a lot of goals once again this season, and that's going to be awesome to see. So you end the first half up 3-1. And I thought the boys were playing well. I really did. I think Caicedo was doing a super, super job being that controlling force in midfield, as he always is, directing play, getting a bunch of interceptions and tackles. He was superb on the day. I thought Chalobah and Tosin were finding passing lanes, doing a well job distributing. Cucurella was his usual good self, gets that first half assist, but does well on that left-hand side defending. Gusto didn't necessarily do a ton, but probably didn't need to. And then Sanchez was fine between the sticks. But the attackers were the story on the day because that first half, they just did so well linking up together. Pedro, Esteval, and Pedro Neto in particular, just loved what I saw from them. And thankfully, for me as a fan, my dad shows up at some point in the second half, and we're watching the rest of this half. He's not a big soccer guy, but what a match for him to be able to see a little bit of because Chelsea were not done scoring goals. Caicedo and Chalobah both add off of corners, kind of messy areas. Caicedo gets one off a deflection of Mads Hermansen, puts it in really nicely, quick reaction to put one in. Chalobah, couple deflections here and there. Pedro heads it over to him, puts it in with the left foot, gives the strong man pose. Great for these fringe goal-type scorers to get goals. Caicedo had 2 goals in his Chelsea career in terms of league play. Had another, I think, against Real Betis in that Conference League final, but this is his 3rd Premier League goal now. So awesome to be off and running on the score sheet for him. And Chalobah as well, a guy that has worked so hard to earn his spot back in this Chelsea lineup coming from the academy. For him to get a goal in that scenario there was absolutely huge, and I love to see every second of that. So shout out to Trevor Chalobah for that. Ends up being 5-1 for the good guys against West Ham. Graham Potter, let's be honest, he's going to be out at this point. He's just he doesn't provide much for the Hammers. He didn't do much in Chelsea. I just don't know how long he can keep up this charade of being a manager in the Premier League. I just don't know. And I think he had success kind of riding in and then at Brighton and outside of England, but I just don't see him being what West Ham needs. Clearly they're undisciplined, not good defensively, not great in attack, really besides Paqueta and Jared Bowen at times. I don't know. That team to me just is not doing enough. So that's part of it. But Chelsea also dominated really after they gave up a goal to West Ham. Really controlled the rest of the match, 59% possession. Same amount of shots, but 7 big chances out of those 12 shots. West Ham had 1 big chance out of their 12 shots. So that to me was huge. Took advantage of corners. Actually had 2 less corners than West Ham, but really were able to take advantage of what they did with those corners. But 19 tackles as opposed to West Ham's 11. That was huge. 7 shots on target. 10 shots inside the box. I mean, that's just quite a lot. 5 big chances scored, so only missed 2. That's a great percentage. 26 touches in the opposition box. That's quite a few. And then just dominating possession as well. So absolutely massive for Chelsea to get this victory against West Ham. And I just think the boys were firing. The boys were fired up. They wanted 3 points after a tough draw to Crystal Palace. And again, what they were able to do coming from behind when you start off down 1-0 is absolutely massive. I can't talk about that enough. Let's not forget, they are an extremely, extremely young team. But they don't care. They've beaten PSG now and become champions of the world. They won the Conference League coming from behind 1-0. So I think whatever Maresca's doing to build camaraderie and squad unity and just being a man manager is absolutely phenomenal. And I can't wait to see where Chelsea go from here. This is playing without their best player, Cole Palmer. At the last second gets ruled out. And Chelsea just say, okay, we'll let West Ham score. We'll give them a goal. And then we'll fight tooth and nail and crush them. Absolutely crush them. Because that's just what they do at this point. Yeah, they're young, but they're fun. They're playing free right now. If they can just ride this momentum, it's going to be so huge to start the year off really strong. Chelsea are third right now. There's only 2 teams that have won both games, and Liverpool will probably join that. They must play tomorrow. Yeah, it looks like they do play tomorrow. We'll see what happens in that one. But at worst case, Chelsea are going to be 4th place after 2 games with that. And this is the time. This is the time where Chelsea really got to come out strong here and do well when they're playing in London before this international break, and then even after when they're playing some easier matches as well. It's going to be huge. Going to be huge. On to some player awards. The Batman of the day with his sidekick Robin. You got to go João Pedro. You got to go João Pedro. Goal, 2 assists. And I'm just going Neto as my Robin because I love the 2 Pedro's connections. The Portuguese, obviously because Brazilians, they speak Portuguese. That connection. Neto is just a solid, consistent force at this point. He gets a goal, gets kind of a hockey assist, if you will, his corner that leads to that first goal. He's a guy that's going to be showing up in big moments and being consistent, and that is absolutely unbelievable for him. Underrated player of the day. We're going to say it every time. Moises Caicedo, somehow still underrated all the time for this Chelsea team. Massive what he does, holding down the entire midfield. I mean, he does it all. He's basically a center back in possession as well for Chelsea, which is massive. Allows the fullbacks to either invert or push up, which is huge for the team and for what Maresca wants to do. And then he gets rewarded with a nice goal. Nice reaction goal, as I discussed. Love Moises Caicedo and everything that he can do for this team. And the defense was solid. Shout out to Tosin and Chalobah for holding down the fort. Absolutely massive for them. Subs that did come in that I will note. Santos comes in. Fofana, first minutes of the year. Absolutely awesome for him to do that. Hato comes in. Reece James, Jamie Gittins as well. And let's talk about my boy Reece James. Because I want to so badly get that Reece James black kit. I didn't even mention that they played in that new black third kit. One of the best and sexiest jerseys I've ever seen Chelsea wear. Looks so good with the World Champions patch as well. But Reece James, the pass he made late in the match that bypasses 5 Hammer players, gets to Esteval, who really should have taken an earlier shot, ends up kind of getting a shot saved. That pass, are you kidding me, Reece James, with that pass? Was that real? Are you kidding me with how good you are? Reece James, my boy. And my camera's getting all blurry now because I'm too excited about Reece James. What's going on here, camera? Oh boy. There we go. Thank goodness. If you just stuck through that mess that I just had to get to the point where I am now, thank you so much. I don't have Danny to be able to edit this video, and even if I was going to try out my editing skills, nobody wants to see that. But that was a little brutal there for a minute. That's maybe my cue to stop talking about Chelsea. I actually do want to talk about Bayern a little bit here because I watched the highlights, loved what I saw from them in their match against RB Leipzig. So let's talk about that. They win 6-0. Kane gets a hat trick. Elise a brace. Luis Diaz gets his first Bundesliga goal for Bayern. Again, apologies for that. It won't be edited out. You'll just see a sneeze in the video. And hopefully you appreciate it and understand what we're going through in this trying time. But shout out to Bayern. Absolutely massive. Elise, playing so well, as I know he would. Predicted him as the player of the year. He's been absolutely unreal. Kane, Hattie in the first match week. Are you kidding me, Harold? Unreal. Diaz, his goal was insane too. But I want to give a shout out to Serge Gnabry, a man that has been called out of shape, a man that has been criticized for performances over the last 2 years, a man that has won everything with Bayern Munich, and yet people just don't respect him to the level he needs to be respected, whether that's on Bayern or on the German national football team. Shout out to Serge. He looked so good in this match, in my opinion. The things he did that were so good for Bayern. So shout out to him. Bayern will look ahead now in the DFB Pokal. The first round, they will be playing Wehen Wiesbaden. Who knows if I said that correctly, but I'm doing my best here. They are in the third tier of German football, currently in 6th place out of 3 matches played. A win, a draw, and a loss for them in that third tier of the Bundesliga. We'll see what happens. I think this is a huge opportunity on Wednesday for Bayern to go out and put out a lineup of some scrubbier players, to be completely honest. I think Von Kohn Company can really give some time to see younger guys and guys that aren't going to get minutes. I think you'll see a Kim start at center back because Ta and Upamecano have been starting. But then, you might see Stanisic at center back. You're probably going to see Carl start. You're probably going to see some of these backups start that aren't playing all the time and getting big minutes. Are you going to see Bischoff return? I don't think so because he's still going to be out after what I believe he had like an appendectomy or something, or maybe he had his tonsils out. I forget. One of those common surgeries that happens. But, you'll probably see a Boué start. Are you going to see a Kusei Asari start? I hope. I would love to see that. Give Kane some time off. Probably Pavlovic. Guerrero didn't even play against Leipzig. He's a guy that probably needs some minutes. Will you see Urbig start in goal? I would say probably yes. And then is Wisdom Mike going to get some minutes? So these are all things that you're going to see, in my opinion, Bayern in this DFB Pokal match. You got to use matches like this to rest your key guys, at least at the start of the match. If things go awry and you need to bring the Kanes on, the Kimmiches on, your Taz, Elises, fine. Then you can bring them on if it's 0-0 or you're down. But let's be honest. Bayern will not be down in this match against a third-tier team. And if this upset happens, I will eat my words, and I will be shocked and have a ton of respect for this squad because that would be an upset for the ages. But I'm excited for this one. I'm not sure if Danny's going to be able to catch it, but I'm probably going to do my best to watch this one. Maybe I'll work from home or something to watch this DFB Pokal match on Wednesday, middle of the day here in America. Wednesday night football if you're watching over there in Deutschland. But I'm excited for it. So hopefully Bayern can put up more goals like they did against Leipzig. Let's be honest. They probably will. Early prediction from me, 5-0 to Bayern. On to Chelsea. In case I don't post another video this week previewing, and now that I'm thinking about it, I might, because I might react to Bayern's game Wednesday. But Chelsea do have Fulham on Saturday, early morning in the United States, 6:30 a.m. for me. And they'll be back home at the Bridge. Another London derby, 3 in a row for Chelsea to begin this year in the great year of 2025. Fulham coming off a draw, two draws, in fact, to start their year. They drew Brighton in Matchday 1, and they drew. Did they draw Forest? Nope, they drew Man United today. That's right. Yeah, controversial game. United ends up missing a penalty. Fulham tie it late. Amberim, again, is not able to string together wins. It's just crazy. Man United not looking good to start the year. Very interesting table if you look at the EPL. Obviously, we're only 2 match days in, but a lot of interesting things on the table, including 3 relegated teams being in the top 12, which is really, really awesome to see. I think we're going to see at least one of those stay up, potentially 2. But yeah, I think I'll preview this Chelsea-Fulham match in detail later this week after reacting to this Bayern DFB Pokal match. So for now, thanks for watching once again. If you're watching on YouTube, please give us a like, a subscribe. We're growing lately. We're probably going to do some sort of giveaway at 250 subscribers. We're 10 away, sitting at 240 right now. Danny's working hard. I'm working hard. We need your support. We need your support, whether it's liking, sharing, subscribing. Talk about us to your friends. If you're a Chelsea fan, Bayern fan of soccer in general, fan of football in general, your support means so much to us. It really, really does. So thank you so much for that. And I hope you guys have a good week. Posting this here on Sunday night. And please appreciate it. It won't be the most edited video, but I'm putting my heart and soul into this. And I definitely appreciate you for watching. So have a good week. Mia San Mia. And up the Chels.